We all know the ending. Elon Musk, the richest man in the world. But that is just the final score. This is not a story about a fortune. This is a story about a single, terrifying gamble that almost broke him, and the unbelievable moment when the future of two industries and his entire destiny hinged on just 48 hours. Our story does not start with billions. It starts with a choice. The foundation, cashing in to gear up. In 1999, a 28-year-old Elon Musk had his first big win. He sold his software company, Zip2, and walked away with $22 million. For most, that is the finish line. For Musk, it was merely fuel. He immediately plunged over half of it into his next idea, an online bank called X.com. It was chaotic and controversial, but it had one brilliant feature that allowed people to send money by email. That feature would become PayPal. By 2002, that bet paid off. eBay bought PayPal for $1.5 billion. As the largest shareholder, Musk pocketed roughly $100 million after taxes. At 31, he was a Silicon Valley king with a Midas touch. He could have vanished into a life of luxury. But he heard a different call, one of mission. He looked at the world and saw a planet shackled by fossil fuels and a humanity confined to Earth. He decided to change both. And he would use his entire fortune to do it. The all-in bet, the brink of nothing. This is the pivotal chapter. The $100 million man decided to become the $0 man. He founded SpaceX in 2002 with a goal so audacious it was laughable, to make humanity multiplanetary. He invested $100 million of his own money, nearly everything he had. Rockets exploded, not once or twice, but 3 times. The company was a fireworks show of failure. Simultaneously, he joined a tiny electric car startup called Tesla in 2004. Leading its funding and becoming its driving force. He poured in another $70 million. The car was late, costs were skyrocketing, and the 2008 financial crisis was turning off the taps for everyone. By late 2008, the dream was collapsing. SpaceX had burned through almost all its money. Tesla was on life support. Musk was out of cash, having invested every single dollar from the PayPal sale. He was so broke he had to borrow money from friends just to pay rent. He was standing on a cliff, watching his 2 revolutionary companies and his entire life's work teeter on the edge of oblivion. The clock was ticking down to 0. In a last, desperate move, Musk tried to raise money for Tesla. He begged investors. He put in his last $20 million, money he had to borrow against his own assets. The deal was on the verge of falling apart. If it failed, Tesla would die that week. At the same time, SpaceX had one final rocket. One last Falcon 1. If it failed, the company was dead. It launched in September 2008, and against all odds, it succeeded. That single success gave him one slim chance, a meeting with NASA for a cargo contract to resupply the International Space Station. Now, picture the scene. It is 2 days before Christmas, 2008. On December 23rd, Musk is in a conference room, staring at a phone, waiting for a call from NASA. His entire future in space rests on this one contract. The phone rings. NASA awards SpaceX a $1.6 billion contract to resupply the ISS. SpaceX is saved. On December 24th, Christmas Eve, with the SpaceX news as a sliver of credibility, he races to save Tesla. He pressures, he pleads. At the final hour, existing investors agree to match his last-ditch loan. The funding round closes. Tesla is saved. In 48 hours, he went from being a hair's breadth from total, devastating failure to being the CEO of two companies that would define the 21st century. The ascent, from survival to domination. What happened next was not magic. It was the payoff for surviving the brink. With those lifelines, SpaceX perfected the reusable rocket, landing boosters back on Earth and slashing the cost of space access. It went from nearly dead to dominating global launches. Tesla, against all odds, delivered the Model S, then the Model 3. It did not just make electric cars, it made the world want them. The stock, once a joke to Wall Street, began a historic climb. Musk's wealth did not come from cashing paychecks. It came from that original, desperate gamble. He never sold his core shares. He owned massive stakes in SpaceX and Tesla, and as they transformed industries, their valuations exploded. His net worth became a reflection of the future value he bet on back in 2002. Conclusion: the trajectory. So, how did Elon Musk grow his wealth? First, he turned $28,000 into $100 million with software. Second, he took that entire $100 million and lit it on fire to build rockets and electric cars. Third, he stood at the absolute edge of ruin, watching his final rocket rise and his final check clear. Fourth, he survived. And the companies that survived with him went on to change the world. His wealth is not just a number in a bank. It is the market's valuation of a future he saw decades ago, a future he was willing to bet every single cent he had on. It is the story of the biggest gamble in business history, and the 48 hours where that gamble almost failed, before it changed everything.